remember who Nigel Farage is. This guy, one of the most racist people in the UK. Do not ever vote this guy.
I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody as ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack.
What's with all these right-wing black Brits? Or you guys, what's wrong with you, man? Video by Eli Wananda. I've seen a bit of this video, a little bit, just to check it out, see what he's talking about. And yeah, it's a cold name, Wananda. Yeah, that's a dope name still. That's a strong name, Eli. Spelled over E-L-Y. It's a new one still. Anyway, enough waffling, let's get into it, bro.
I saw a video saying something like, Black Caribbean people are the most integrated people in this country. This was during the riots. And the idea, I think, was that, well, don't come for us. We're so integrated. We want to be part of your society, you know.
I mean, that is true.
People go on these marches and support these people. When did this country become your country to take from somebody else? You don't understand that half of these people who want their country back, they want their country back from you too.
Very true. Very true.
People here in the UK and in the USA as well, and probably other parts of the West.
So before we go any further, I know that was just the intro, but a fact is, Caribbean people are the most integrated culture or immigrants inside of British culture. It's in the music, it's in our food. Everywhere you're gonna see some type of Jamaican culture, Caribbean culture inside of the UK. It's just very much integrated and woven inside of the country. Now, in terms of what British culture is, British culture has been something that's been confusing for a long time. So I couldn't even tell you. I'm a British person. I can't even tell you what British culture is. You know, like in terms of food, I can tell you, bangers and mash, flipping steak pies, sausage batter and chips. Yeah, I can tell you that much, right? But then when you look around and you walk around, you actually see what shops are actually running sausage batter and chips, for example, fish and chips. They're Turkish, so it's one of those ones, you know. But that's in London. So yeah, British culture is one of those ones where it's like this is one of the slogans I like to use: keep calm and carry on. You don't see anybody talk about this shit anymore. Like, this is one thing you learn in primary school, you never learn it ever again. British values, patriotism, that's what it is. But yeah, British culture is one of the more confusing things I'd say nowadays. It's not like how Americans are, how you guys are just like, oh yeah, I'm a patriot. Like, it's not the same thing over here. When you say you're a patriot over here in the UK, you more times than not, 9 times out of 10, you're just saying, oh man, I want it to be more white. 9 times out of 10. So it's a bit messed up at the moment, I'd say. Anyway, let him continue. Let Eli continue.
The world who identify as right-wing or as conservative. And in this video today, I wanted to talk a little bit about why might this be? Why is it that there are these growing numbers of black people who identify themselves in such way and who align themselves with politics which on the face of it appear to be kind of against their own interests? Firstly, I wanted to talk a little bit about the apparent oxymoron. So the reason why it seems a little bit oxymoronic or a little bit strange to see this rise of black right-wingers. By
the way, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't seen any of these black right-wingers on YouTube, on in the UK. I don't see them, right? So I can't personally say I see more right-wing black people. In terms of me, majority of the time, black people are more clued up over here, where they know that, okay, don't vote for fucking reform, because that's what gets all of us out of it. So, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't say there's a lot of black right wingers out there. I wouldn't say that. That's just me. My experience, I haven't seen them.
Is because traditionally, here in the UK at least, the right, and particularly the far right, the extreme right of the political spectrum, has generally not been a friend to black people. So if you think about...
Well, that's history, by the way. If you look at history, think about civil rights. Right wing is usually the conservative side. That's what right wing usually revolves around. People want to keep their values. They don't want things to change. They don't want to progress anywhere. That's what the right usually tends to be. On the left, it tends to be the side that's more progressive. They want to change things. They want to progress humanity. You know, less wars going on in between ourselves. You know, be more accepting of another brother or another person, or just because of their lifestyle, don't discriminate. That's what the left wing usually is. Now, the reason I brought up the civil rights is because civil rights, the people that didn't want it to happen were right wing, right? So the right wing politics, it favors racism. People who tend to be racist are usually right wing, having the same type of values, because those are the people that accept those things. You know, like, oh yeah, you shouldn't integrate with another culture. Oh yeah, you should try and preserve your culture for as long as possible, which I have no problem with. But at the same time, I don't think it should be a thing where you shouldn't be accepting of other cultures, because why would you accept one culture and not accept another? That's straight up racism. You feel me? But yeah, in history, right wing usually favors being racist and not trying to change anything and keep things the way they are. Don't progress in terms of society. Don't progress in terms of multiculturalism, which is literally what the UK is nowadays. Bloody hell, like, what, chicken tikka masala? That was made in Scotland, bruv. Them man are integrated. Multiculturalism is in the UK.
What right wing means, what far right, extreme right means. Generally, what you're talking about is there's kind of like the social and the economic elements. That's one of the most simple ways you can think about politics. So economically, right wing tends to mean the pushing of so-called free market economics, the removing of controls over corporations and the private sector, the idea that the state should be small, so not a lot of influence or interference into the workings of the market. The idea, this mythical idea of the free market.
Oh, that's another thing. Like, when he brings up, I agree with that. Where the right wing tends to want more of a free market, so where billionaires and anybody can just buy up essential utilities, and less workers' rights, less ability for workers to actually push for higher wages. Trades unions, for example, there used to be a whole bunch of trade unions. Back in the 1950s, obviously I didn't live through that, but you can look in history and see that there were more trades unions back in the day. 1950s, right after the war, during that era, right, when the UK was trying to rebuild itself again, there were tons of trades unions going out. And throughout the years, you know, mainly due to Margaret Thatcher and the Conservative Party, there's been a significant slash in trades unions. And trades unions are the reason why people are able to ask for higher wages. Look, for example, you can look at the Scandinavian countries. They have humongous amounts of trades unions out there. And the trades unions make it to where the people that work in get fair pay. You know, they don't just get bullied by the billionaires, your Elon Musks, your Jeff Bezos. They don't get bullied to just stay at the same wage and survive on that same wage from 10 years ago. That doesn't make sense, right? So when you slash trade unions, it makes things 10 times harder for a worker and people of that country to be able to ask for higher wages. Even though they're asking for the bare minimum. They're asking for, yo, I need to survive. I need enough money to help my family, you know? And that's not been the main talking point of the UK for a long time, and that's because trade unions can't push for that.
The invisible hand, as Adam Smith referred to it, that the invisible hand of the market will sort everything out and everything will be fine. You just need to get out of the way and let the market,
which is bullshit,
the god of the market, kind of sort everything out. So economically, it's all about removing the government, removing the state from decision making, from controls over anything, you know, prices. The state shouldn't own many assets, if any at all. That sort of stuff. And that's as opposed to moving more toward the left. The idea is that the state should have quite a strident role in society to ensure that the market doesn't trample on ordinary people, right, and that the resources, the commonly owned resources are put into the use of the commons, the people who own them.
Right. That makes sense. So yeah, this can be seen with very simply with our resources that we have in the UK. Thames Water, prime example, completely privately owned. The government has no say or whatsoever in what happens to one of the most valuable resources on this planet, which is clean water. We have no say so, no power. When I say the government is the people. People have no power to have control over the water that they drink. Do you not think that's insane? And it is. Now, the reason why I bring up Thames Water, yeah? These guys are cowboys, man. Real modern day cowboys. How my mum likes to say it. She's proper cockney, you get me? So I remember a time where our toilet was broken for a while. There was a leak going on. And Thames Water, over 5 years we were living at this property, they never fixed it. They never fixed the water leak, and all they did was charge us more. Which, quite frankly, is fucked up, Like, you're paying Thames Water to keep your water running. They're doing the plumbing. You're paying them to do that. And yet, they'll keep scrounging. Anyway, that's an example of what happens in my family, right? But as a whole, Thames Water has gone through the roof. Through the fucking roof in terms of bills, water bills. And the reason why it's like this is because they're in debt and they need to pay off that debt. Right? Now, I literally looked up today where I searched up what is the actual value of Thames Water. And I think it was 19 billion, something like 20 billion, right? And I thought to myself, okay, but that lines up with one thing, what Gary's Economics has been saying. Gary's Economics, he says you should be charging the rich 2%, I think it was like 1%. So people you make over like a £10 million a year, or you have £10 million in assets or something like that, you have to pay about 1% of whatever you make, right? And if you work that out across the whole board, people who have over £10 million in the UK, across the board, you put it all together, it's around £20 billion for a whole year, right? Which, in the grand scheme of things, in terms of the UK budget, it's not a lot, but it's gonna make a humongous dent. The reason why I bring this up, if Thames Water is £20 billion, yeah, £20 billion, why the fuck don't the UK just buy Thames Water back? Yes, we'll be probably having to scrounge for a little couple years, maybe, but at least now the state owns Thames Water again. And quite frankly, I don't get why they don't just fucking do that. I'm not an economist, but if the numbers line up, put in that wealth tax, put in that wealth tax on the rich. You need to do this.
Please, could you tell me more about how you see the wealth tax working?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question, right? So me and the people I work with, like Patrick Millionaires, we campaign for 2% wealth tax above 10 million. It's not on income, it's on the wealth that you own. So all of your assets minus your debt, 2% a year. I think sometimes people time it a little bit too strictly to that, like it has to be this specific form of wealth tax. The most important thing is that whatever tax you bring in is effectively targeted at really, really the richest. We're not talking about bankers, doctors, lawyers, heaven forbid, LBC presenters.
God, I
We're
wish.
talking about phenomenally wealthy people with wealths of 100 million, £1 billion. You need to focus on these people.
So you talk about, I think it's a tax of 2% on wealth over 10 million.
Yeah.
Roughly how many people in the country have that kind of wealth? And
It's
so
not an enormous number of people.
what would that tax produce?
It's not an enormous number of people. We think it would bring something sort of like 20, 30 billion. Depends exactly how you do it.
And so, you have much more state influence in the economy, state influence in society as well. But mainly you're talking about more of a big state ownership of utilities and housing and control over education, all that sort of stuff. But it's socially where I think the right-wing thing kind of really comes into play, and the oxymoron element comes in with black people. Because socially speaking, these right-wingers, and extreme right have tended to veer toward ethno-nationalism. I made a video recently about Kemi Badenoch, who was appeared to be surprised that she was getting a fair amount of racist abuse, and she was being stereotyped in such a way using racist tropes that she can't keep time and all that sort of stuff. And she mentioned ethno-nationalism,
and I think I know the reason why. This is my opinion, and from what I've seen, Kemi Badenoch knows full well that she needs the white British vote, the white working class vote, the white middle class vote. Majority of those people, they won't come out and say it. I won't say majority. I'll say a lot of those people are racist. Straight up, they're racist. They won't say it outwardly to black people, but as soon as they have no one else to blame anymore, and I mean the Asian people coming in on the boats and the migrants coming in on the boats, as soon as they have no one to turn to there, they'll turn to black people. They'll turn to Africans, they'll turn to Jamaicans, they'll turn to us again. This is something that my grandfather had to go through, even though he got brought over here into the UK willingly, and he was asked to come over here and still got scrutinized. Right? For when he's helping out your country, when you ask for his help. When they literally ask you to come. Right? So now, as soon as they get rid of all these migrants, which, quite frankly, it looks like it's gonna happen. They've been talking about it for a whole year now, right? Which I've been seeing on the news. They've been talking about it for a whole year, nothing's happened. But it's good. If they keep talking about it, it's gonna happen. As soon as they've sorted out something to do with the migrants and they stop putting in the news, they're gonna point black to black people again. Once again. And they're just gonna make it a black issue instead of making it a societal economic issue. So I agree with him there.
Coming up quite a lot. And ethno-nationalism is the idea that, frankly, so in the UK context, it's the idea that to be a British, you must be Caucasian, you must be white. And if you are not white, you are not British, and certainly you are not English. And this is what, generally speaking, when you looked at the far right, when you've talked, some of you younger people might not know, before you had the British National Party, you even had the National Front. And the British movement and groups like that. Later on, you also had like the more kind of paramilitary wings, the violent people like the Combat 18 and various of these groups. Right. And they were openly about whiteness. I remember hearing the BNP marches and they were saying rights for whites. And there ain't no black in the Union Jack was one of their slogans.
That's crazy, by the way.
Very much, it was a very clear picture that they wanted Britain to be for British people, England to be for English people, and that meant for white people. And that's ethno-nationalism. It's not, in a sense, it's not particularly different to any other form of ethno-nationalism. So I know many people, for example, who would argue that Africa is for black people only. And there are people who would swear blind that the Arabs who live in the north of Africa need to, frankly, they're interlopers, they're imposers, and they need to get out. That's what some people would say. I don't believe that.
Yeah, and I don't believe it for a second either.
So this is the ethno-nationalism, and that's why the far right has, generally speaking, been the ones in history. Anyway, going back to the post-war era, the second half of this 20th century, it was the NF, it was the BNP who were doing the attacks and the abuse and all that sort of stuff of black people. It was the Teddy Boys, the racist Teddy Boys in the 1950s who our elders from the Caribbean primarily, but also from Africa, had to be fighting against. That's what the Notting Hill riot, before Notting Hill Carnival started. One of the reasons the Notting Hill Carnival began as a thing. Now it gets trashed on and trampled on by a lot of black people as well, saying it's just debauchery and low vibration behavior.
Yeah, he's right. Obviously before we had EDL, before we had BNP, we had more and more and more racist parties, racist movements towards black people. and that's what they were fighting against. 100% true. The best place I found out about this was this channel, this series on BBC Three. So if you have BBC iPlayer, you can probably find it. I'll put that in the video. It's probably right next to me right now. I don't even know. But yeah, it'll show you a bunch of stuff around the black experience and perspective of living in the UK, because you don't really see that in the news very often anymore. You don't see it at all. You know, you don't see it in social media. It's very hard to find seeing what it was like for black people back in the day in the UK.
The reason it exists in the first place, and yeah, I agree, it's changed a lot, but the reason it exists in the first place is that it was a response. It was a response to the race riots that happened in Notting Hill and also in Nottingham in the mid 1950s. The Teddy Boys were the ones who were doing the attacking, who were doing the abusing and the killing of many black people in those times. So for me, I wasn't around in those days, but I do remember, seeing these NFs with their Nazi salutes and monkey noises and all that sort of stuff. For me, it very much is,
Which is crazy, by the way. Like, a country that fought against Nazis to start throwing up Nazi symbols is crazy, by the way. That is crazy, by the way. But it all comes back to white supremacy, my friend. Always does. It always does. Whoa, that is the wrong clip, bro. Always comes back to white supremacy, man. Because Hitler, that man wanted white people and white people only, bro. So any black person, if you think that it's okay to be a Nazi, you're in the wrong boat, my friend. Because that includes exterminating you too. Just remember that shit.
It feels very strange to see black people aligning themselves with the descendants of these BNPs and National Fronts and so forth. And actually, oftentimes, someone like, for example, Tommy Robinson was a member of the British National Party. He was a member of that party. He has many people who are in his movement, through the EDL, Pegida, whatever, all these movements he's had, who were, and maybe even still are, members of these far-right, openly racist parties. So that's where the kind of, the oxymoron and the strangeness comes in. And so what's going on? Well, I think there were three main things I want to talk about. I'm not trying to make some conclusive, all-expansive conversation, but there are three main things I want to talk about. First of all, I want to talk about religion. And it's maybe you didn't think I was going to go there, but I actually think that religion is one of the most important elements to help to explain this, because black British people have generally been overwhelmingly of a Christian persuasion. That certainly was the case for the sort of earlier waves of black people who came here from the Caribbean.
Right. We all know where Christianity got given to those Caribbeans. Remember, Caribbeans were slaves. And they didn't get given their original culture. They had to make their own culture. They didn't get given their original religion. They got stripped of their culture, religion, their beliefs, everything. Right? And they got given to them the white Bible that tells them that yes, it's okay that slavery is happening. But don't worry. After you've died, if as long as you be a good slave, you'll get to heaven, man. Just obey your master. What the fuck? It's everywhere. I look inside of the Bible, I see slavery. Nowhere in the Bible does it say slavery is bad. Nowhere. And you expect me to believe ever that book was ever meant for me? Get the fuck out of here, bro. Get out of here. I don't believe that shit, bro. Anyway, the point wasn't about me. The reason why grand majority of black people adopted Christianity was because they got given it and it was the only thing they flipping knew. It's the only thing they knew. They lost their culture, so you know what? They said, you know what? I need something to help me get through these hard times. Okay, if I could at least believe that there's a God out there that cares for me and actually gives me a heaven after I die, after I be as good as I can be and the cards have been dealt, then yes, I will believe in this religion. And I do not blame my ancestors for that at all. But the people today, yes, I do blame you. People today who try and push Christianity on other black people is fine. You can do whatever you want. But I think it's time we start going back to our roots, because we have the internet. We have ways of finding out our religion. We have ways of finding out who our ancestors believed in and what they believed in. And if you want to go back to them, we always can. So I honestly don't believe Christianity is for black people. Because what has Christianity done for black people? Let's get that straight.
50s, 60s, 70s. I would have thought 99% of them would have been Christian. And then now with the later wave of African immigrants coming directly from the continent of Africa in the 90s, noughties and 10s, you know, they're predominantly Christian. Yes, there are some.
Oh my God. I'm so fucking immature.
A higher number of Muslims in that later wave, but the majority have been Christian. Amongst the evangelicals, there's a strong Christian Zionist element there because of the prophetic element. So there's that, you know, the Holy Land, that land is seen as being promised to the Jews. And I remember hearing some of these televangelists saying that the Jews must be in Jerusalem in order for Jesus to come back. And I remember at the time always thinking, like, that seems a bit weird. So like you're kind of advocating for like violence and genocide and occupation and all these sorts of things in order to bring about a prophecy. Like,
it's mental, bro.
You know, that was one of the main things that I just couldn't get my head around with regard to these people. But the point is that helps to align many black Christians with those on the right of the political spectrum here. That's why a lot of them liked George W. Bush, because he was very much was very much supported by the religious right.
Which we all know the reason why he pushed that agenda is because majority of Americans are Christian. So if you wanted to get the political vote, yes, you go with the Christian narrative and trust me, you're going to get the votes. And that is what I think I'm seeing nowadays. In terms of what's going on with the king. The king went to go meet the Pope, and I think, in my opinion, the reason why he's doing that is to get the Christian vote. To show, look, I believe in guys' religion, even though they're not the same thing, Catholic and Christian, but they're very similar. Let's not lie. They're very flipping similar. And the reason why he's doing that is to show that, hey man, look, I'm like you guys, man. I still care about my religion. I know damn well that nigga don't give a fuck about that religion, bro. Damn right.
So there's that, and then also as well, and this is where Islam comes in. A lot of the beef that's happening right now, when you look at these marches and all that sort of stuff that's happening right now, who are the people that they're talking about mainly? Who are the people that they're against? Who does Tommy Robinson say that he's against?
Immigrants. And that's the migrants and
Islamism.
Yeah.
Jihadis and all this. That's what they say they're against.
Right.
And that language, that narrative, it finds very fertile recipients amongst black people, particularly those Africans who have come from Africa. Many of them come from Nigeria, where there is conflicts going on between northerners and southerners. Certain northerners,
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know much about what's going on in Nigeria in terms of the race with the religious war, but that happens all around the world, man. People have been debating religion for centuries. Doesn't surprise me, right? Now, the reason I paused was because I was thinking of Tommy Robinson, and he will have this view of Islam, and he'll point to certain scriptures in Islam to try and prove his point. But then when somebody in his own political group, his own movement are doing the exact same thing, he backs them day in, day out, even when they've already been proven them and PDF files. They're PDF files, bro. Them man are literally punching up people. But look, Tommy Robinson, that's a whole nother bag. That guy's an idiot. That guy's a straight up racist. Don't listen to that guy. Ever. Don't listen to that guy, man. He's gonna tell you lies to just try and get your money. He's a political grifter, my guy. Grifter.
Certain Southerners, it's wrapped up in religion, but personally I feel that the religion is just the, as is so often the case, religion is just the kind of red herring. The issues that really are taking place are much more to do with the distribution of resources, the sharing of political power, different socio-economic lifestyles, if you like, so the pastoral versus the sedentary and all that sort of stuff. But it's just portrayed as the Muslim Northerners, you know, fighting against the Christian Southerners. And so when they're coming here now to the UK, they choose a side. They choose a side. They choose the side of those who are against Islam, and they choose the side of the Jews as well. So when you're talking about on a geopolitical level, they will choose Israel, the state of Israel, over anybody else, even in the face of the genocide that is happening.
Yeah, literally people dying, people
over there for a couple of years nearly. So I think that's a key part, and as well with the earlier Caribbean immigrants as well, it's a similar thing that the black people. So let's talk about the earlier migrants from the Caribbean. I remember growing up. I'm in like a weird in between thing because we came from Africa, from East Africa, but at the time we came now, most black people here were Caribbean. This is in the early 80s. And so
Windrush generation.
I've always found that's what I grew up in. I went to school in the 80s. So that's my childhood experience. And I remember very much that it was the black people and the white people were the ones who kind of got on together a lot more. You know, there was a lot of intermarrying, if you like, or whatever you want to call it. Whereas there was none of that with the Asians. The Asians from Pakistan in particular, and India, Bangladesh we very much saw them as kind of, for me personally, I was just friendly with anybody, but
bro,
there was a very...
How is that same, bro? Like, in London, it's very diverse, man. And in my school, bro, there were Asians, there was some, and the lowest population of people, lowest demographic was white people, bro. They were the lowest one. But I was still cool with everyone, man. You know, hey, I can be friendly with anyone, bro. I'm not going to say I don't see race, because I see race. Of course I see race. But I'm not going to be discriminatory, say lies about you that I saw in one person and apply it to the entire race. I'm not going to do that. I don't do that. You know? It's just how it is.
Clear delineation between the English-speaking people, the blacks and the whites, and the Urdu-speaking, the Gujarati-speaking, the Bengali-speaking, the, whatever it might be, Hindi-speaking people. And so there's always been this idea that we black people, especially those early ones, are kind of more similar to white people. And it actually plays out when you look at, for example, when you look at the social outcomes of black people here, and particularly black Caribbean people and their descendants, their outcomes in education, in employment, all that sort of stuff, very, very, very closely parallel those of white working class people.
That's true. The reason why is because when black people came over, they were put to work inside of factories, inside of construction working, doing those trades, everything to do with manual labor. So when he says that, he's talking facts, bro. He's talking facts. And that's where people will see similarities with the black individual. There's Asian people inside of that as well. You know? Which isn't the point he's trying to get to, but I know what he means. He's talking about back in the day. And even still today, that's still the case. You know? The working class black man is very close to the working class white man. It's true.
Class white people here in the UK, there's very close correlation. In my many videos I've done about education, you'll see that when you see black people at the lower end of the achievement scale in GCSE and A-level, black Caribbean people, you'll see that they're alongside white British people, and particularly working class people. So there's been this commonality between them. And I distinctly remember, feeling a little bit uneasy about it because it didn't feel right to me. Like, you know, I'd hear white people like saying things about Asians. I'm like, yeah, but if you're saying that about them, what's to say you're not going to be saying that about me when
Facts,
I'm around?
bro. Facts, which is exactly why reform is dangerous to the black community. Reform is the most dangerous thing that can happen to us, bro. To us, to black people, that you got, the people that live here, bro. You're in danger if you vote for reform, bro. Please do not listen to this red pill talk. Yeah, thinking it's only a migrant crisis. Do not listen to that bullshit, bro, by reform. Remember who Nigel Farage is. This guy, one of the most racist people in the UK. Do not ever vote this guy. Please, I beg. Because our lives will get significantly worse if we let reform be the running party of our country. You'll sell off all our assets. All the things that our government owns. Things will go through the fucking roof again, because when Thames Water got sold, things went through the fucking roof in terms of water bills. Yeah, because they ruined it. They went into debt, and now your water, yeah, your water, as a British man, I'm gonna say your water, yeah, goes through the roof, man. Your water bill goes through the roof. It's already through the roof for electricity bills, it's already through the roof for gas bills, it's already through the roof for water bills, and that's because those things we do not own. So what makes you think that if you sell off any more, it's going to be any better? Facts. Anyway, I think there's some other things that he does say in this video, but I think we get the big picture of what he's trying to put forwards. Right, which is pretty much the things I agree with. Everything he said in this video, I agree with. You know how you being a black conservative does not help you. It isn't targeted for you. It's not made for you. It's made for rich people. It's made for rich people who want to buy up all your assets, ask for more money from you for every fucking month, and take as much money from you as they can to put into their properties and put into their family so that nobody else can have it. Yeah? Don't vote for them. Don't vote for them, man. Okay. I think that was a good video, man. We're gonna leave it here, man. We're gonna leave it here. Yeah. And I'm gonna see you guys real soon. Love.